And when it was clear that his paranoia was going to have him, once he had all the power, he would try to use that power to dispose of anybody that would go against him.
He never slammed the table. He never stormed off a set. Redford just watched, then walked away. And once he closed the door, it stayed closed.
I gained a lot of experience just by watching people, because I used to draw them or sketch them or write about them.
For over 6 decades, Redford shaped American cinema without ever raising his voice. He didn't chase scandals or pick fights in public, but there was always something beneath the surface, an actor who knew exactly what he didn't want, who he didn't want, and when the silence showed up in his casting choices, in the way he moved from one project to the next, it spoke louder than any quote ever could. There were names he never mentioned again, performances he never praised, and actors who were quietly, permanently left behind. The Way We Were, All the President's Men, The Natural, Butch Cassidy, and The Sundance Kid. His films carried generations. But look close and you'll find something else. Not just a great performance, but a missing one. Not just a powerful scene, but an absence where someone else used to be. And when Redford shuts the door, it doesn't come with a bang, it comes with nothing, no statements, no second chances, just a career-sized gap where a name used to be.
It's journalism that gets to the bottom line and says, wait a minute, we're hearing this, we're hearing that, but what's the truth? And I think we're into that now.
He worked with dozens of legends, but only a few made it into his trusted circle, and even fewer made it out unscathed. Here are the 6 actors Robert Redford refused to work with again. Not because they lacked talent, but because they crossed a line he never forgot. Number 1. Deborah Winger. Some creative partnerships are fire and gasoline. Redford and Winger? That was more like an earthquake you only feel when the dust starts settling. They worked together once, Legal Eagles, 1986. A legal dramedy meant to mix courtroom charisma with romantic tension. On paper it looked perfect. 2 heavyweights, 2 different worlds. But the vibe on set, ice cold. Redford was methodical. Winger was electric. He liked quiet control. She thrived in chaos. And from day one, the mismatch showed. She later admitted in interviews that the working relationship was tense, and not the fun kind, the kind that fills a room without anyone speaking, the kind that doesn't explode, but corrodes. At one point, Winger claimed she wasn't even told the film had started shooting, a quiet move that she interpreted as intentional. The tension spilled into body language, missed cues, glances that said everything the dialogue didn't. Redford never fired back publicly. He didn't have to. Because once Legal Eagles wrapped, something became painfully clear. They'd never work together again. No sequels, no reunion press tours, no friendly interviews where they looked back and laughed. I was not told the film was starting. I guess they thought I didn't need to know. Winger's version paints the picture of a passive-aggressive freeze-out, and Redford? He just vanished from her career timeline. One film, one collision, one silent exit. In a way, their story fits the film. 2 characters meant to connect, but orbiting each other with frustration and unspoken resentment. Only this time, it wasn't fiction. Redford had no taste for volatility, and Winger didn't hold back. That mix made for a movie, but never a partnership, and once Redford walked away, the door didn't just close, it disappeared. Number 2. Barbra Streisand. On paper, they should have been aligned. 2 perfectionists, 2 icons obsessed with storytelling. But in real life, Redford and Streisand weren't partners, they were barely even collaborators. The Way We Were was lightning in a bottle, romantic, political, timeless. But behind the scenes, it was something else entirely. Redford had one rule: don't upstage the scene. Streisand, she was the scene. She sang it, dressed it, sculpted it until it shimmered, and while their chemistry worked on screen, off camera, it left bruises. Redford didn't want to do the film at first. He thought the character of Hubble was too flat, that it was a role in service to her. He hesitated, questioned the script, questioned the balance. He's too perfect, no dimension. He exists only for her. That's not a real man. But they pushed forward, and he brought dimension. He was the man the film needed, and Streisand? She gave it gravity, emotion, grandeur, but it came at a cost. Redford allegedly resented the way she took control, reworking lines, arguing with directors, adjusting her performance until every frame reflected her vision. He wanted authenticity, she wanted precision. Years later, Redford rarely spoke about the film, never revisited it, never reunited with Streisand on another project. And when the chance for a sequel came, he passed. Streisand has always admired him, as an actor, as a man of principle, but admiration isn't the same as compatibility. And Redford, he preferred quiet actors, ones who let the work speak. The irony is painful. They made one of the most beloved romantic films of all time. But the real story? Two artists clashing in silence, two different instincts crashing behind the camera. There was no warmth, no real connection. It was all on screen. For Redford, that was the end. No hard words, no public feud, just the unspoken decision never to share a set again. Some love stories only work on film, and this one stayed there. Number 3. Jack Nicholson. They were two legends, built from the same generation, shaped by the same counterculture wind. But while one leaned into chaos, the other leaned into control. Redford admired subtlety, silence. He believed the power of a performance wasn't in the volume, it was in what wasn't said. Nicholson? He lit matches and burned the frame. Their paths crossed early, circling the same roles, same directors, same award seasons. But never once did they share the screen, and that was no accident. Jack brings heat, Redford brings restraint. They weren't built to breathe the same air. When asked about Nicholson in interviews, Redford kept it short, cordial, neutral, but never enthusiastic. Because beneath the surface there was tension, creative, philosophical, personal. Nicholson represented the wild card, the unpredictable force who would show up on set and explode into character. Redford, by contrast, was methodical, intentional, focused on structure, story, and space. It wasn't about rivalry, it was about discomfort. Redford's world was about integrity, collaboration, and trust. Nicholson's presence, while magnetic, always threatened to pull attention inward, to make the film orbit him. And then there was Chinatown. Robert Towne originally had Redford in mind, Roman Polanski pushed for Nicholson. The result? A classic. But for Redford, it was the final sign that their styles were incompatible. I couldn't imagine sharing a scene with Jack. He doesn't share, he owns. They respected each other, from a distance. Redford acknowledged Nicholson's brilliance, he just never wanted to stand next to it. And Nicholson, he never chased Redford's approval, he played his roles like jazz, loud, messy, unforgettable. Two towering figures, one screen apart, and that screen never bridged. Number 4. Faye Dunaway. Some actors memorize lines. Faye Dunaway became them. But Redford didn't just need talent, he needed stability. And with Faye, what he got was lightning. Beautiful, terrifying, unpredictable lightning. Their collaboration on 3 Days of the Condor looked perfect on paper. Two icons at their peak. But behind the lens, things cracked, not because of ego, but because of energy. Redford came from quiet craftsmanship, precision, repetition, control. Dunaway brought fire. Scene to scene, she shifted tones, rewrote energy, forced everyone to adapt in real time. He once told a director on set, "With Faye, you have to catch her storm, you don't guide it." The issue wasn't talent, it was tempo. She challenged direction, rewrote emotional beats. Sometimes she'd refuse multiple takes, claiming she'd already given the truth once. Redford, a producer on the film, wanted order, structure. He'd crafted a set that ran on clockwork. Dunaway shattered that rhythm. And yet when the camera rolled, she was magnetic, haunting, unforgettable. The result was undeniable. But the cost? Friction, misalignment, a film that soared on screen and nearly fractured behind it. Redford later called the experience worth it, once. She gave brilliance, but brilliance without boundaries is danger. They never worked together again. There was no feud, no press war, just a quiet understanding between two titans. Their styles, while equal in talent, were opposites in nature. For Redford, trust meant consistency. Faye Dunaway offered genius, but on her own terms. And in Redford's world, the camera may love chaos, but the director doesn't have to. Number 5. Sydney Pollack. Some actors bring chaos, some bring charisma, but Sydney Pollack brought something else, a director's mind behind an actor's face. He was more than a collaborator, he was a mirror, which for Redford was both a gift and a curse. They met early. This property is condemned. From that point on, they became inseparable, for better or worse. Pollack directed Redford 7 times. That kind of repetition? It builds either trust or tension. Redford once said, "With Sydney, there was no mystery. He saw the seams, he saw the threads, and he never let you hide behind the performance." That was the brilliance of Pollack. He knew how to pull the best out of Redford, even when it meant friction, especially when it meant friction. But there were moments, on 3 Days of the Condor, on Out of Africa, when the collaboration turned into confrontation. Pollack wasn't afraid to override Redford. Even when Redford had producing power, he'd recut scenes, he'd reshoot endings, he'd demand another take, then another, until the emotional rhythm hit exactly the note he wanted. Redford respected that, but he didn't always love it. Pollack wasn't gentle, he wasn't diplomatic. He treated Redford like a tool, not a star. And Redford, accustomed to subtlety, sometimes bristled at being hammered into place. We didn't argue, we negotiated, sometimes all day. But even when things got hot, they never broke. Because under the tension was something solid, a belief in each other's work, a shared obsession with legacy. They could fight, fiercely. But when the scene was finished, when the cameras stopped rolling, there was no ego, just results. Pollack gave Redford some of his finest performances, and Redford, in return, gave Pollack something deeper: permanence. No friendship is without friction, and no great partnership survives without heat. Sydney Pollack brought both, and for Redford, that heat forged something rare, someone who could challenge him, change him, and still be trusted to return. Number 6. Woody Allen. There are difficult collaborators, and then there's Woody Allen. To the world, Allen might be a brilliant filmmaker, a neurotic genius, a legend of indie cinema. But to Robert Redford, Allen was a ticking clock, unpredictable, distracted, and worst of all, completely uninterested in playing fair. They only crossed paths once, professionally. But it was enough. Allen had considered Redford for multiple roles early on. The timing never worked. But by the 1980s, Redford was offered a part that should have been perfect. Intelligent, charismatic, understated. Redford turned it down. Not because of the script, but because of the director. And that's where it shifted from professional distance to personal coldness. Redford once said, quietly but clearly, that Allen liked to make actors uncomfortable. But not for art, for control. Allen would rewrite scenes moments before shooting, pull pages, reassign lines. He wanted chaos, and expected actors to shape it into coherence. Redford wasn't built for chaos. He respected the process, the discipline, the quiet craft of preparation. Allen? He thrived on improvisation, uncertainty, imbalance. In his world, performance was extracted, not earned. When Allen eventually commented on Redford, it was with a smirk. He said, "He's too golden, too neat. I like actors who fall apart." Behind the scenes, Redford had already made up his mind. He didn't mind rejection, he minded insult. Allen's refusal to respect the actor's space, the silence before a scene, the clarity between director and performer, was a deal-breaker. After that, Redford declined every approach, every script, every whisper of collaboration. He didn't announce it, he just vanished from Allen's radar. And when Redford's own films, like Ordinary People, The Horse Whisperer, Quiz Show, earned acclaim, Allen never commented publicly, but privately. Crew members recalled Allen mocking Redford's earnestness, his heroism, calling it propaganda cinema. Redford never responded, because sometimes silence is louder than a feud. In Hollywood, clashes often happen behind glass. Quiet, formal, with a smile that doesn't reach the eyes. But with Woody Allen, Redford didn't need to throw a punch. He just walked away from the table and never sat back down. And that absence, that unspoken rejection, it was permanent. Redford never made enemies for sport. He didn't seek conflict. He avoided the noise, the gossip, the ego-driven chaos that Hollywood feeds on. But when someone broke the unspoken rules, the respect, the preparation, the purpose, he remembered. Some actors he avoided, others he erased. So now it's your turn. Which actor surprised you most? Or which name do you think Redford almost mentioned but didn't? Drop your guess in the comments. And if you want early access to the next Blacklist, like, subscribe, and become a member.